The space market was loud and full of strange smells. Traders shouted from all sides, trying to sell rare animals, weapons, and even old starship parts. Humans were not common here, but Rick didn't care. He walked through the crowd with calm steps, just watching and listening. He had no plan to buy anything. He only stopped by the market because his ship needed repairs, and he had some time to waste. Rick had seen many things during his travels. He had fought pirates, escaped storms in deep space, and even helped deliver food to broken colonies. This market felt different. It was noisy and busy, but something made him slow down. Soft sound reached his ears. Music, not the sharp, fast kind that most stalls played. This was gentle, soft, and a little sad. Curious Rick followed the sound to a quiet corner of the market. There, under a torn red cover, was a small stall. No one stood around it. In the back, on a soft round pillow, sat a girl. Her skin was light gray, almost silver, with faint blue lines that moved gently across her arms. Her hair was white, tied back in a loose braid. Two small horns curved backward from her head, and her eyes stayed closed. A metal band was over them. She didn't look up when Rick came closer. She didn't move at all, but her head tilted slightly when the music stopped. The stall owner, short creature with many eyes, stepped forward. "Interested in her?" the seller asked in a bored voice. "No one wants her. Blind, slow, useless. She's cheap." Rick looked at the girl again. Something inside him felt heavy. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. But she seemed so alone. Rick didn't think she was ugly, just different and tired. "What's her name?" Rick asked. "Doesn't matter. The last buyer called her Thing," the seller laughed. "You want her or not?" Rick didn't answer right away. He had never thought about buying a person, and he didn't like the idea. But this wasn't the same. She wasn't property. She was someone who had been treated badly and left behind. He couldn't walk away. "I'll take her," he said quietly. 100 credits. The seller grinned, surprised. "Too much, really, but I won't argue." Rick paid without another word. The seller handed him a small metal tag with her information and walked away. The girl still didn't move. Rick knelt down beside her. "Hi," he said softly. "I'm Rick. I'm taking you out of here, okay?" The girl tilted her head again, then gave a small nod. Rick helped her stand. She was light, almost too light. Her hands were cold. She held onto his arm as he guided her through the market and back to his ship. The walk was quiet. Some people stared, others laughed, but Rick ignored them all. He only focused on the girl walking beside him. When they reached his ship, he let her sit on a soft seat in the main room. The lights were dim, the air warm. She seemed to relax just a little. "Do you have a name?" he asked. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Then after a few seconds, she whispered, "Naya." "Yeah." Rick repeated with a small smile. "That's a beautiful name." Naya turned her face toward his voice. "Thank you." Made her a cup of warm tea and gave her a soft blanket. She didn't drink much, but she held the cup gently. He showed her around the ship, letting her touch the walls and doors so she could remember them. She followed quietly, listening to everything. Later that night, Rick sat in the control room and stared out into space. His mind was full of questions. Who was Nia really? Where did she come from? What had she gone through? He didn't know if he could help her. But he knew one thing: he wouldn't leave her behind. Not like the others. Behind him, he heard soft steps. Nia stood in the doorway. She had removed the band over her eyes. Her eyelids stayed closed, but her face looked calm. "Thank you," she said again. Rick turned toward her. "You're safe now, Nia. You're free. You don't owe me anything." She smiled faintly. "I know, but I still want to say it." Nodded, then looked at her for a long moment. "Do you like music?" Yes. Smile grew just a little. "Yes." Rick pressed a button, and the same gentle music from the market began to play again. Nia walked slowly toward the sound and sat near the speaker. Her fingers moved with the rhythm, as if she could feel the notes in the air. Rick watched her in silence. He knew then that he had made the right choice. NIA wasn't a thing. She wasn't useless. She was someone special, and this was just the beginning of her new life. Nia woke up to the soft hum of the ship's engine. She was curled up in a warm blanket, lying on a soft bed that smelled clean and safe. For the first time in many cycles, her body didn't ache from the cold floor or tight chains. Instead, there was silence, peaceful, quiet, and real. Rick had made sure the room was gentle for her senses. The floor was padded, the air was warm, and soft music played from a corner. He had also placed voice panels near every wall. If she touched them, they would tell her where she was. Door, table, bathroom, bed. It wasn't much, but for Nia, it was magic. Rick sat outside the room sipping his morning drink. He didn't want to rush her. She needed time. He looked through the ship's logs, checking fuel levels and charting their next stop. They weren't heading anywhere special, just flying through open space. For now, that felt right. A small sound made him look up. Nia stood at the doorway. She held onto the wall lightly, her fingers brushing the voice panel. "Main room," the panel said in a soft tone. Rick stood. "Morning, Nia. Did you sleep okay?" Nia nodded. "Yes. It was warm. Would you like something to eat?" He asked. "Yes, please," she said. He led her to the small dining area. He had already prepared a light meal: soft bread, some fruit paste, and warm soup. He placed the food in front of her and gently guided her hands to it. She moved slowly, but didn't need much help. It was clear she had learned to manage long ago. As she ate, Rick sat nearby. "I was thinking, maybe we could make a room for you. Your own space. Anything you like." Nia paused. "I've never had my own room." Rick smiled. "Then it's time you did." After breakfast, Rick showed her the room he had already started building. It was beside the music room and had soft walls, a bed, and voice panels. But the surprise wasn't ready yet, he told her. "I've been working on something special. I hope you'll like it." Nia touched the walls, listened to the space, and nodded. "This already feels kind." Rick watched her explore. She didn't move fast, but her fingers danced across every surface with care. She listened to each sound and stayed silent for long moments, as if breathing in the peace. Later that day, Rick walked to the cargo hold. There, hidden under a tarp, was the real surprise. He had spent days modifying a room module. It had air that smelled like wildflowers, lights that changed softly, and small speakers that played calming sounds, birds, rivers, and music. He called it the Serenity Pod. He carried the module into Nia's new room while she rested. He didn't say anything to her yet. Everything was set. He tapped on her door. "Nia, can I show you the surprise now?" She nodded and followed his voice into the room. Rick guided her to the middle and helped her step into the Serenity Pod. The floor felt soft under her feet. The air smelled sweet. The sound of a river flowed gently in the background, and a bird chirped nearby. Nearby, Nia froze. She turned her head slowly. Her fingers touched the walls and the curved ceiling. The music changed slightly with her steps. It responded to her movement. "What is this?" she whispered. "It's your space," Rick said. "A place made just for you. I call it the Serenity Pod. It listens to you. It changes when you move. You can ask it for any sound or any wind, star's end. It will play it." Nia sat down on the soft floor. She didn't speak. For a full minute, she sat still, her head tilted slightly. Then she whispered, "It's beautiful." Rick smiled. "I'm glad." Small light on the wall blinked. The eye spoke softly Nia's mood, peaceful. Nia smiled and touched the light. It blinked again, matching her fingers. "Rick," she said quietly. "Yeah, no one has ever given me something like this. I've never been seen before." Rick felt a tightness in his chest. "You deserve to be seen, not as something broken, but as someone strong." Nia turned toward his voice. "Thank you." "You don't have to thank me," he said. "I want to," she replied. From that day, Nia spent hours in her pod. She listened to sounds she had never heard before: storms, oceans, wind through trees. She asked questions. Rick answered each one patiently. She began to laugh, soft and quiet, like the music she loved. Rick didn't treat her like someone weak. He gave her space, choice, and respect. That, more than anything, helped her begin to heal. At night, Rick would often sit outside her room and listen. Sometimes she'll talk to herself. Other times she hummed along with the music. Once, she whispered a short song in her own language. It was soft and full of longing. Rick didn't understand the words, but the feeling behind them was clear. One evening, Nia asked, "Rick, can I ask something?" "Of course. Why did you help me?" "You could have walked away." Rick thought for a moment. "Because I saw someone who needed a friend, not someone weak. Someone strong who had been treated unfairly, and I didn't want to be like the others who ignored you." Nia didn't speak right away. Then she said, "You're the first person who ever asked what I wanted." Rick smiled. "Well, get ready. I'm going to ask a lot more." Nia laughed gently. Outside the ship's window, stars passed by. They were flying through space, just the two of them. It's no grand mission, no big goal, just peace, healing, and the beginning of something new. NIA had been called ugly, broken, blind. But now, she was none of those things. She was free. Days passed slowly but peacefully inside Rick's ship. The stars outside never stopped moving, but inside, time felt softer. Nia spent her hours in the Serenity Pod, touching the sound walls and listening to peaceful melodies. Rick watched from the hallway sometimes, quietly smiling at how calm she looked. One morning, Rick sat at the table working on a broken panel. Sparks jumped from his tool as he fixed the wiring. Nia walked into the room, using her fingers to feel along the walls. She stopped when she reached the table and sat down across from him. "Rick," she said softly, "can I tell you something?" Rick put his tools down and looked at her. "Of course. Anything." Nia was quiet for a long time. She held her hands together, her fingers fidgeting with a thread on her sleeve. Her voice was low when she spoke again. "I wasn't always alone." Waited, not saying a word. "I was born on a planet called Lysaria. My people are called the Valsari. We lived in tall silver towers and sang stories into the walls. Music and light were a part of everything. Even our language was made from sound." Rick listened carefully. Nia's voice was calm, but there was sadness underneath. "I was born blind," she continued. "My family was royal. They expected their first daughter to be strong, smart, and perfect. When they saw I couldn't see, they said I brought shame. My mother hid me for years. She told others I was sick or traveling. I wasn't allowed to join the family songs." "I'm so sorry," Rick said gently. Nia nodded slowly. "When I was old enough, I started making my own music. I sang into the walls. I told stories to myself. The walls sang back sometimes. They remembered me, even when my family didn't." "It's beautiful," Rick said. "Then war came," Nia said. "My people fought over power. The towers burned. My family ran. But they left me behind. They said I was too weak to help. I was captured by raiders, sold and traded. I'll stop counting how many times." Rick's hands clenched the edge of the table. He had no right. Nia shook her head. "I stopped dreaming, stopped hoping until I heard your voice." Looked at her, surprised. "At the market?" Nia smiled a little. "Yes." "Your voice didn't sound like the others," they shouted. "You were calm. When you spoke to me, I felt like I could breathe again." Rick reached out slowly and placed his hand over hers. "You never deserved any of that. And I'm glad you're here now." Nia didn't pull her hand away. She let it rest under his, her fingers still trembling slightly. "Thank you for listening," she whispered. Rick nodded. "Always." That evening, Rick brought out a small music player, placed it on the table, pressed a button, and a soft tune filled the room. It wasn't from Earth or Lysaria. It was something he had found in deep space, a song made from Lysaria. Star sounds calm and strange. Nia tilted her head and listened. "It feels far away." "It is," Rick said. I thought you might like it." Nia leaned forward. "Can you play it again?" Rick smiled. As many times as you want. They sat together in the quiet, listening to the star song again and again. Later that night, Rick checked the ship's sensors. They were heading near a neutral trade zone. It was a good place to restock supplies, but he hesitated. Nia was safe on the ship. Outside, things were not always kind. He walked back to her room and knocked lightly. We'll reach a trade zone in a few hours. I'll need to dock. Do you want to stay on the ship, or would you like to come with me? Nia didn't answer right away. Then she said, If I come, will anyone try to take me again? I won't let them, Rick said firmly. Nia thought for a moment. Then I want to go. Rick prepared a soft headset for her, linked to the ship's AI. It would help guide her steps and alert her of any danger. Nia wore it without complaint, trusting his work. When they landed, the station was quiet but busy. Different species moved through the halls. Lights blinked above shops. Nia held Rick's arm gently as they walked together. Some looked at her with confusion. A few stared. But Rick kept moving, his eyes forward. They stopped at a food stall, where Rick bought fresh supplies. The vendor looked at Nia and said, Is that a Valsari? Rick didn't answer, just paid and moved on. Nia whispered, They still see me as different, Rick said. They don't see who you really are. On their way back to the ship, they passed a group of traders. One of them stepped in front of them and pointed. She's Royal Valsari. How'd a human like you get her? Rick's jaw tightened. She's not yours to speak about. The trader laughed. And useless. No wonder your kind takes scraps. Before Rick could reply, Nia stepped forward. I chose to walk with him, she said clearly. And I see more than you ever will. The group went silent. Rick gently guided Nia past them, proud of her words. Back. On the ship, Nia sat in the Serenity pod. She looked calm but thoughtful. You okay, Rick? Asked. Nia nodded. They tried to break me, but you gave me strength. You had it all along, Rick said. I just reminded you, Nia smiled. Then thank you for reminding me who I am. Outside, the stars kept moving. But inside, something had changed. Nia was no longer just a blind girl from a broken world. She was a survivor, and she was not alone. The ship floated quietly through open space after leaving the trade station. Rick checked the controls while Nia sat in her pod, fingers lightly touching the curved walls as gentle forest sounds played around her. She had grown used to the rhythm of the ship and the peace inside it. For the first time in her life, she felt safe. But peace never lasted long in deep space. A red light blinked on the ship's main console. Rick leaned forward and tapped the screen. Sensors had picked up another ship. It wasn't a trader or a transport. It was a patrol ship official, strong and moving fast. Rick frowned. Why would a patrol be out here? Nia stepped out from her pod. Is something wrong? Rick didn't want to worry her, but he couldn't lie. Patrol ship is coming toward us. It could just be a scan or something more. Nia walked toward him slowly, holding onto the walls. Rick didn't answer right away. They won't take you, I promise. A voice came through the speaker. It was cold and direct. Unregistered human vessel. This is Galactic Patrol Unit 07. Prepare for boarding and identity check. Respond immediately. Rick pressed the button to reply. This is Captain Rick of the independent ship Zephyr. We're a peaceful traveler vessel. We're not carrying illegal cargo or weapons. The voice replied, acknowledged. Docking will begin in 5 minutes. Do not resist. Rick turned to Nia. You should stay in your room until we know what they want. Nia shook her head. No. If they're here for me, hiding won't help. Can protect you? Rick said. You already have, Nia said. But now I want to stand beside you, not behind you. Rick nodded. Then we'll face this together. The patrol ship docked. 4 officers entered the ship with quiet steps and firm expressions. They wore dark blue armor with gold marks on their shoulders. Their leader, a tall woman with gray skin and sharp eyes, stepped forward. We're searching for a missing royal, she said. Her name is Nia of the Valsari. She was reported taken during the war. Nia stepped into the room before Rick could reply, I was not taken. I was sold, and left. The officer stared. You are Nia. Nia nodded. I am. Rick moved to stand beside her. She's here by choice. I didn't take her. I helped her. The officer's eyes narrowed. You understand this is serious. She's of royal blood. Many want her returned. And what do you want? Nia asked softly. Our orders are to bring you back, the officer said. Your people believe you. Are still needed. Nia took a deep breath. They didn't need me when I was born blind. They didn't need me when the war began. Now they remember because I survived. Rick placed a hand on her shoulder, offering silent support. If I go with you, Nia said, will I be free to speak? To choose? The officer hesitated. Your return would place you under council care. There would be ... limits. Then my answer is no, Nia said. The officer looked at Rick. This will not end with your ship. Others will come. Rick stood straight. We're not hiding. We're just living. Someone wants to talk, they can knock, force their way in. The officer studied Nia for a long moment, then gave a short nod. Very well. I will report that Princess Nia refused return. But remember, this decision will bring attention. Nia bowed her head. Let it come. The officers left the ship quietly. The patrol ship undocked and flew away. Rick locked the door behind them and turned to Nia. You were amazing, Nia smiled. I was scared. You didn't show it, he said. I didn't want to run anymore, she said. You showed me how to stay. They sat down in the common room. Rick brought her tea, and they drank in. Silenced, Nia looked toward his voice. I don't regret it, Rick. Leaving my past. Meeting you? Rick looked at her gently. Me neither. Outside the ship, stars shimmered quietly, but inside, something stronger than fear had taken root. Courage, and it was growing in both of them. A soft buzz filled the ship. Rick tapped the control panel and frowned. We're getting a long-range message. Nia walked toward him. Who is it from? Rick read the signal ID slowly. That's from Lysaria. Your homeworld. Nia's face stayed calm, but her fingers curled slightly. What does it say? Rick played the message aloud. The voice was smooth and serious. To the vessel carrying Nia of the Velsari Royal Line, your presence has been confirmed. We request a meeting. We come with peace. Our ships are approaching. Prepare to receive. Nia's hands dropped to her sides. They found me. Rick looked at her carefully. Do you want to talk to them? Nia didn't answer at first. Then she said, if I don't, they'll chase us forever. Maybe it's time to face them. Rick nodded. We'll face them together. A day later, 2 large ships appeared on the radar. They were not patrols. They were royal vessels, silver and blue, with the Velsari crest on their sides. They docked quietly, without weapons drawn. From one of the ships, a group stepped out, dressed in long robes and glowing sashes. The one in front was tall and wore a metal crown. His voice was deep and careful. I am Elar, voice of the royal house. I speak on behalf of the council. We thank you for keeping Princess Nia safe. Nia stepped forward slowly. You didn't thank me when I was born. Elar hesitated. The past was full of mistakes. We now wish to correct them. You mean? Control me again, Nia said calmly. Lehar shook his head. You misunderstand. The council was broken by war.
Now we seek to rebuild.
We believe your return could bring peace. Your presence has meaning. Nia kept her head straight. When I cried as a child, no one came. When I sang to the walls, no one listened. When I was taken, no one searched. Why do you want me now? Ilar's voice softened. Because your story has spread. Because your survival has touched hearts. You are not weak, princess. You are a symbol. Rick stepped beside Nia. She's not a symbol. She's a person. And she chooses what happens next. Elar looked at Nia. Will you at least come and speak to the council? Only speak. No one will force you. Nia paused. Then she said, I will speak. But I will speak my way. They traveled to a neutral space station, chosen by both sides. Inside a large hall, many beings waited. council members, traders, other Velsari, even some who once whispered that Naya was cursed. She stepped into the center of the room, head high, eyes still closed. Someone in the crowd whispered, "She's still blind." Another said, "How can she lead?" Naya raised her voice. "I may be blind, but I see more than you. I see pain and I see hope. I see fear and I see strength." The room fell quiet. "I was left behind because I was different," she said. "I lived in chains because I was unwanted. But now I stand here not because you called me, but because I chose to." She touched her own chest. "I do not return to serve. I return to speak. This is what I say. Ever judge a soul by sight. Never call weakness what you do not understand. I am not broken. I am alive." Rick stood at the edge of the room, proud. Elar stood slowly. "Your words are heard, princess." Nia turned toward the sound of Rick's breathing. "I do not want a throne. I do not want a crown. I only want a life where I am seen." The council members nodded one by one. Elar stepped forward. "You may live where you wish. But the stars now carry your voice." Naya turned and walked away from the center, past the crowd, toward Rick. "Are you ready to go?" he asked. "Yes," Naya said. "I've said what I needed to say." As they returned to the ship, Rick glanced at her. "How do you feel?" Nia thought for a moment. "Lighter, like a door in my heart has opened." Rick smiled. "Good. That door will never close again." Nia reached out and held his hand. "Thank you for always standing beside me." Rick looked at her and said gently, "Always." The stars outside blinked like quiet candles. The ship rose again into the dark, carrying two souls who no longer ran from the past because they had finally faced it. Rick awoke before dawn, the ship silent except for the soft hum of the engines. He dressed quickly and made his way to Nia's room. She lay on the padded floor of her Serenity pod, eyes still covered by a soft bandage. He knelt beside her, brushing a strand of white hair from her face. "Good morning," he whispered. Nia stirred, her fingers reaching out. "Morning," she replied in her gentle voice. Rick smiled and touched her hand. "Today is the day we try to give you sight." Nia's breath caught. She turned her head so her ear faced him. "I'm ready." They traveled through empty space, toward the medical station on a small moon. Rick guided the ship with steady hands. Nia sat in the pod, listening to river sounds as she waited. She felt a mix of fear and hope. When they arrived, Dr. Nair met them in a bright hallway. She was a tall woman with kind eyes and soft words. Rick helped Nia from the pod and into a wheelchair. They rolled through wide doors into a treatment room filled with gentle lights and warm air. "Nia," Dr. Nair said, "we will remove your bandages now. You may feel brightness. Just breathe slowly." Rick squeezed Nia's hand as the doctor lifted the bandages. Pale light filled Nia's vision. She blinked, and everything was white. "Can you see?" Dr. Nair asked softly. As breath came. Fast, she tried to focus. Shapes formed at the edge of her sight. A dark figure knelt beside her. She blinked again, and the figure sharpened. "Rick," she whispered. Rick smiled, his face clear at last. "It's me." Tears rolled down Nia's cheeks. She saw their tracks as thin lines of liquid on her skin. She reached out with her free hand, touching his arm. She could see its curves, the soft brown color. I see you," she said, voice trembling. "Rick, I see you." Dr. Nair guided her to a seat. "Rest your eyes. When you're ready, we'll do simple exercises." Nia nodded. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the brightness settle. When she opened them, the room looked gray and soft, like fog at dawn. She saw shapes rather than colors. Rick stayed beside her. He said, "I'll help you learn." Over. The next hours, Nia followed the doctor's instructions. Dr. Nair showed her a set of colored blocks. She held a red cube in her hand, but only saw a dark shape. The doctor and Rick each said the word red in turn. Nia studied the cube, then nodded uncertainly. Slowly, a pale red glow emerged in her vision. She blinked and gasped. She held up a blue cube. The blue looked cool and deep, like still water. She whispered each color name. Rick clapped gently, proud. "You're doing great," he told her. "See, your mind remembers light." Nia smiled, tears still in her eyes. "It's strange, but beautiful." After the color exercises, Dr. Nair led her to a mirror. Rick stood behind Nia's wheelchair. Nia lifted her hand and touched the smooth glass. She saw her reflection gray skin with silver lines, white hair, and 2 small horns. She stared for a long moment. "Is this me?" she asked softly. Rick knelt beside her. "That's you," he said, "beautiful and strong." Nia turned in the chair to face him. She blinked as she took in his face. The gentle creases by his eyes, the way his hair curled at the edges. She saw warmth in his eyes. For the first time, she saw more than shapes in his eyes. She saw care, patience, and kindness. Later they moved to a window overlooking the moon's surface. Outside, the sky was black and filled with stars. A bright planet shone in the distance. Nia gazed at the scene. "It's more than I imagined," she whispered. Rick stood behind her, pressing her chair gently. "The stars have always been there," he said, "but now you can see them." Nia leaned her head back against his chest. "It feels like a song of light." Rick smiled. "It's a perfect way to say it." That night, Rick and Nia shared a small cabin on the station. He brought a datapad with images of planets they planned to visit. Nia touched the screen and the image spoke aloud. Planet Verdana, Forest Moon. She saw green leaves in the picture and gasped as she recognized the shapes. "I want to see real forests," she said, eyes shining. "We will," Rick promised. "We'll go there next." Before sleep, they talked about the future. Nia described how colors felt warm, cool, soft, bright. Rick listened, fascinated by each new word she invented for what she saw. "Thank you," Nia said softly, "for everything." Rick took her hand. "Thank you for trusting me." They fell asleep. With the window open, stars floating across the sky like silent fireflies. When morning came, Nia was restless. She hurried to the window and opened her eyes to the view again. She saw the station's buildings, a mix of metal and glass, lit by the moon's pale light. She felt alive. Rick joined her. He held 2 cups of warm tea. "Here," he said. "For your first full morning of sight." Nia accepted the cup and sipped slowly. She tasted warmth and smiled. "I never knew tea had a color," she said softly. Rick laughed. "It's golden, like morning light." Nia looked at her cup, then up at him. "I will learn all these colors. I will paint them in my mind." Rick wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "I'll stand beside you as you do." Outside, the station ships came and went. Inside, 2 people sat by the window, sharing light, hope, and a new beginning. Nia was no longer blind. But more than that, she had learned to see a future filled with possibility beside the human who had given her that gift.